The Assassin's Creed Shadows debacle continues. The latest development in this story is that a Japanese historian is now claiming that Yasuke was indeed a samurai. However, it's been revealed that he, the historian, is a communist. You cannot make this stuff up. He's also connected to Vanguard and BlackRock. Before we get to this, I'd like to ask you, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos here at the Trent Report. Also, hit that like button. Let's get more people to watch this video and beat the YouTube algorithm. Roll this up over at thatparkplace.com. And this historian, Hirayama, he's claiming that Yasuke is a samurai, and his post went absolutely viral. Over 8 million impressions alone. You can see IGN has been covering it. Culture Crave did 10 million impressions on their post covering it, going completely viral. And this is what his post says. It seems like there's a lot of talk about Yasuke, a black man who served Oda Nobunaga. There are very few historical documents about him, but there's no doubt that he was a samurai who served Nobunaga. So he's literally admitting there are very few historical documents about him. And then he goes on to claim, despite that, he's a samurai. Regardless of one's social status, if one's master promoted one to the rank of samurai, one could become one in medieval warring states society. He then shared his explanation. I can say this because the historical documents state that Nobunaga gave him a stipend, he was given a house, and 3, he was given a sword. From there, Hirayama elaborated. Being given a stipend and serving Nobunaga closely fulfills the important requirements of a contract between master and servant, and agreement to receive a stipend. It is also important that he was allowed to carry a sword, so he was a two-sworded servant and not a servant. Servants were not allowed to carry swords. And if he was given a house, there's no room for doubt. Hirayama continued saying he was probably a slave until Nobunaga took over the missionary slave, but due to the above 1 to 3, he probably became a samurai of his own volition. Again, right there. So remember, he is saying that he was a samurai, and now he's saying probably. So he's already crouching his words. Obviously, there could be an issue with translation here, but we're already seeing him say probably, after definitively saying he was a samurai. Remember, what do you say up here? There's no doubt. And now he's saying there is doubt by using probably. So he's contradicting himself here, caught it in his own lie here. I don't think he has the actual evidence to do that because, again, he said up here, not a lot is known about him. Very few historical documents about him, right? So let's continue. He was probably a slave until Nobunaga took over the missionary slave, but due to the above 1 to 3, he probably became a samurai of his own volition. And then he tried to address arguments that point to Akechi Mitsuhide giving him back to the church and kind of sparing his life and saying that this guy clearly was not a samurai. And so Hirayama wrote this. During the Honnoji incident, Akechi's side did not kill Yasuke because he was an animal or not Japanese, but that was only because Akechi did not recognize Yasuke as a samurai, probably because he had discriminatory feelings. So he's already admitting that someone else at the time did not recognize him as a samurai, saying he was not a samurai. At that time, it was common for a master to promote someone of low status to a samurai. To begin with, there is a good example in Hideyoshi. So this went absolutely viral, and I think there's obviously taken out of context there too, because again, remember he says probably became a samurai after he said there's no doubt, and he's clearly adding doubt there with probably. Again, could be a translation issue, not sure on that, but we did get a further explanation as well. He had a lengthy thread on basically this criticism that Yasuke wasn't a samurai because he was just Yasuke, didn't have a surname, didn't have a family name. And Hirayama tried to address this. And he wrote this: surnames, family names, and samurai status. Some have criticized the fact that Yasuke was not a samurai because they did not have a surname, or he did not have a surname. Indeed, the presence or absence of a surname, family name is a very important point of contention. However, during the Sengoku period, there were people who were of samurai status even without a surname. Let me introduce the most easily understandable example. And then he says this. In August 1567, Takeda Shingen ordered his clan, hereditary retainers, local lords, and vassals of local lords in Kai, Shinano, and Western Kazuke to submit petitions. This is the famous Ikushima Ashishimiya Shrine petition. Sorry, I butchered that. I know I have a bunch of Japanese viewers. I'm sorry, I totally butchered that. Shimonogo petition. Among them is a petition signed jointly by local lords Kozumi Kisanai Shiganaga and Kozumi Takumisuke Munemasa of Ogata County, Shinano, and a petition signed jointly by Kozumi's vassals. The petition, which has an invoice with the words Kami Kozumi's vassals, is signed jointly by 8 Kozumi vassals, but it is written Haisuke blood seal, and then goes through all of the individuals, their names, and their blood seal. And we can see that none of them have a family name or signature, and only a blood seal is affixed. He continues saying, so are they not of samurai status, as they are vassals of the local lord, Kozumi Shiganaga? I think there is no doubt that they are of samurai status. I think they just have not yet been bestowed with a surname, have received a surname. They are people called Tonohara and are of village samurai status with respectful addresses of Tono and Kata in the village. He then went on and elaborated, saying, it is believed that there were several stages in the rise from peasant status to samurai status, and one could not rise to the top in one leap. First, at the discretion of their lord, one was placed at the bottom of the samurai hierarchy, and by accumulating achievements, one's status rose. You often hear stories of lords giving their surnames or giving one character part of their name to their lords, but this was the result of their devotion or loyalty. He then said this, it is unusual for a black person to be given the name Yasuke by Nobunaga himself, along with other treatments he received. That is why Ota Usuchichi recorded it in Nobunaga Koki and probably also wrote about it in Iyatada Nikki because it was a well-known story at the time. However, while Yasuke's treatment could have improved after that, the fact that he was by Nobunaga's side until the Honnoji incident is the best evidence of this. I don't think he reached the point of being given a surname. However, it is simplistic to say that he was not a samurai just because he did not have a surname. Since he was given a gift of a noshi wrapped around his scabbard, he was treated as a warrior. Kojiki Ruin clearly states that only warriors can be given this name. He then concluded the thread writing this. Just to be sure, I'll add a note. Some people use Miyoro Anjin as an example, but when exactly was William Adams allowed to use the name Miyori Anjin? It couldn't have been right after Tokugawa Ieyasu met with him. He was also given the surname, family name, in recognition of his loyalty. It wasn't sudden. Everyone, please look into it carefully. So I think he makes a pretty convincing argument there about the surname stuff. Again, I have to look into these individuals here that he's talking about from this village and whether or not they are considered samurai or not. Obviously, don't know enough information about them or about what's happening here. But his argument, I think, is convincing on the surface, aside from the fact that obviously we already pointed out that he already admitted that probably added in that doubt after saying there was no doubt. Furthermore, though, calls his entire credibility into question is the fact that the guy's a communist. And ex-user Delibrium pointed this out right here in this post on X. And this is from a post that Hirayama posted in the middle of January. He wrote this, there's been a lot of talk about the state of the Japanese Communist Party convention. It hasn't changed at all since the end of the Showa era, when I was a member, and the early Heisei era, when Miyamoto Kenji was in power. During my time, I remember in Kazutomo being expelled for criticizing Miyamoto Kenji, but I wonder how long they intend to hold on to Lenin's unique organizational theory, which sought to build a party under Russia's unique autocratic regime as a golden rule. This time in particular, I think the situation is even worse than it was in the Showa era. The expulsion of Shimosato Masaki in the Heisei era was also truly terrible. So clearly he is indeed a communist and a communist sympathizer. It looks like he's not a member of the Japanese Communist Party, given the fact that he's saying he was expelled some years ago. However, we also have more posts here that I actually dug up. Here's one where he says, today I felt that it's around the same time frame, that January 18th, January 17th, January 19th time frame, middle of January of this year. And he wrote this, today I felt that the Japanese Communist Party had come to an end. The ghost of Stalinism hung over the party leadership, and a Stalinist female party leader appeared with a terrifying speech. I have no hope for anything anymore. Farewell, Japanese Communist Party. So it looks like he is distancing himself from the Communist Party, but he clearly is still a communist. Because he also wrote this. He says, I may be your senior. I'm a former party member. I also served as a prefectural committee member for the Young Communists. Also, isn't the key to a majority revolution in developed countries how to win over the majority who are neither party members nor supporters? That kind of talk will only push you into the enemy's shoes. At least read Ueda Koichiro's theory of revolution in developed countries and United Front debate. That way of thinking reveals your theoretical weakness. So clearly, the dude is a communist. And we have another historian, Anna Zofia Chichoka. She is a board member of the Pavel Lodowicz Institute. There's lots of things I'm butchering right now. And she makes it very clear that communists use history to impose their ideology, and they basically fabricate it to reinforce communist ideology. And she wrote this: as soon as the Bolsheviks came to power in Russia in 1917, history as a science of the past was destroyed. It became a political tool totally controlled by the communist authorities and an instrument of communist propaganda. History was completely subordinated to Marxist-Leninist ideology, and it was the Communist Party that always decided which interpretation of that ideology was correct. This made it possible to constantly manipulate and rewrite history according to the ever-changing needs and political sensitivities of the Soviet regime at a given point in time. The result was lies and manipulation on a mass scale. And I think that's exactly what Hirayama is actually engaging in, given the fact that he is indeed a communist and he's pushing this whole idea that Yasuke was a samurai. Because we have this information here from ex-user Purple Whale 24. And he notes that Hirayama is actually a member of this organization called Pony Canyon, and specifically its Area Alliance Department, which, according to the company, quote, embraces the mission of revitalizing regions, energizing Japan through the power of entertainment. Our primary focus lies in regional revitalization and branding, utilizing our proficiency in planning, producing, and promoting entertainment content. Through innovative approaches, we showcase the distinctive charm of local areas while fostering sustainable community development. Purple Whale 24 wrote this: the new historian saying Yasuke is a samurai is Yu Hirayama. He has partnered with Pony Canyon, a music and entertainment company, to promote Japanese culture through entertainment, and is also a PR media site trying to globalize to the West. To that point, he shared this post and wrote this: 2024 is Pony Canyon's first year of globalization, and has met with U.S. music industry members and U.S. press to help with the expansion of their newly established North American branch for music and anime distribution. It always happens when Japan opens a branch in California. And you can see here from the screenshot of the blog post that he shared that it does indeed say here that they are trying to participate in globalization. Pony Canyon, whose management plan is cross the border, has positioned 2024 as its first year of globalization, and then talks about the event that they just held. The event was attended by a standing room only crowd of people from the music and animation industries in the U.S. and abroad, as well as members of the Japanese and U.S. press who have been paying attention to the announcement of the relaunch of its full scale. I actually think they've deleted this post. I did try and find it on their website, and you get a 404 error now when you literally type in the headline of the post here that he is citing, and comes back with a 404 error. So it looks like they actually deleted this from their website. Furthermore, we get more information here from Purple Whale 24. This guy did excellent work here. He details that Pony Canyon US partnered with Crunchyroll, which is a subsidiary or Crunchyroll subsidiary, excuse me, Right Stuff Media. Crunchyroll, obviously owned by Sony, to do US distribution. And he wrote this: Pony Canyon's US distribution is handled by Right Stuff Media, which is a subsidiary of Crunchyroll, which is owned by Sony Pictures and Sony Music Entertainment. Now we know why Yu Hirayama is pushing the narrative that Yasuke was a samurai. It's Sony in disguise. And he has got all the information here about that. And then obviously, I think there's an article from Anime News or whatever, Anime News Network, talking about the deal with Right Stuff to distribute their stuff in North America. And then finally, we get this information here, some financial information. Talks about this bank or money lender called MUFG. I think it's like Mitsubishi something. He's got it further down here. It's like Mitsubishi something here. I don't know the full name of it right now. Yeah, there, Mitsubishi UFG Financial Group right there. And he posted this, which is lending money to Fuji Media Holdings, which owns Pony Canyon, who is promoting Yu Hirayama as a historian, promoting Yasuke was a historical samurai for Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed, is majority owned by none other than BlackRock, Vanguard, Goldman Sachs. And you can see here, largest shareholders are indeed Goldman Sachs. Vanguard is in there as well. The Vanguard Windsor 2 Fund. And then BlackRock is in there as well. You can see that right here, BlackRock Inc. and Dimensional Fund Advisors. And there's a bunch of others, Morgan Stanley, Fisher, Aristotle, Bank of America, etc. And then finally, Purple Whale shared this information as well. Fuji Media Holdings owns Pony Canyon. The biggest lenders of Fuji Media Holdings are included below: MUFG, has one of the strongest grips on DEI. They were also one of Sony's financial backers when Sony first started. If you want to click through on his tweet here, which I will have the link in the description below, you can see that MUFG is actually the third holder here in Pony Canyon. And then he has all these screenshots about how they are pushing the DEI agenda and have fully embraced it here on a number of their posts on their website and everything like that. So this guy, Yu Hirayama, a communist, already calls into question his historical assertions and his basically his reputation, given the fact that he is indeed a communist. Communists cannot be trusted. They are known to lie, to push their ideology and agenda. And we have documented evidence that they do this when it comes to history, specifically when we're looking at Russian history and how the Soviet Union manipulated history in order to push communist ideology when the Soviet Union was still in power. So obvious red flag there. And then he's clearly connected to a bunch of big banks and companies that are literally trying to push the DEI agenda, which is exactly what Ubisoft is committed to as well. And that is why they included Yasuke in this game. The first time they have created a actual historical figure and made them playable as a playable character. And they clearly chose to have a non-Japanese character as well as the main character in a game set in Japan. This is the first time they've ever done that too. So clearly pushing the DI agenda. So I think there is a lot to be skeptical of what this guy has to say, even though on the surface it does seem like a convincing argument. But I think it's also convincing because he's talking to people who might not be fully aware of a lot of this Japanese history. And when people actually kind of maybe look into it, dive into it, we'll see that it's not actually true. And again, he even admits there's not a lot of historical data. And he also kind of says probably he was a samurai immediately after he said there was no doubt. So he's already crouching his own argument there, indicating that he doesn't actually know. And he's just pushing a potential theory and that there is no actual proof that Yasuke was a samurai, something that Ubisoft says did indeed happen. And that's something that they want to teach people through their game. Again, that communism trying to lie, using history to spread lies, to push DEI, push communism, etc. So lots of information here to take in, but I don't trust this guy. I think the fact that he's a communist is the main reason for that. But let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, but to always speak the truth.